Are we on? Finally, the technology came through. Third time's the charm. That's awesome. I was like, you froze out for so long there that I thought maybe you just like get up and be like, oh, well, screw this. I'm out. Thanks for sticking around. Guys, those of you that are tuning in right now, this is Nia Shanks. Nia Shanks is a lifter. She's an educator. She's a survivor of binge eating. Actually, a moonwalking extraordinaire is what what is that? I just found out today. Actually, I didn't know that until now. But she is a very much a no-nonsense badass, a very strong female. And if you guys are in for a treat, if you head over to her website, it's not liftlikeagirl.com. Is it niashanks.com?
Both of them will get you there. Both work.
Both of them get you there. Cool. Well, Nia, can you kind of introduce yourself to the Grit Gym Tribe and kind of tell them a little bit about you and where you are right now?
Well, I really liked your introduction, so it was pretty flattering. But yeah, coach and just like helping other women embrace an empowering approach to fitness, and we do that through focusing on getting stronger and making health and fitness a wonderful part of their life that enhances their life and not something that dominates it or stresses them out. So that's pretty much the short of it.
I like that. You mentioned that multiple times throughout your website, and everything that I've ever read by you makes that very clear, that it's not necessarily about like obsessively going over the top into these extremists sort of like punishing your body or burning off. Like one of my favorite lines that I've heard you say is like how many calories does it or how much exercise does it take to burn the calories from 3 cookies? And you're like, what is it? You're like, it doesn't matter because that's a stupid question or something. Just killed me. I loved it.
Well, that's mostly because I have been on the other side. I know all too well what it's like to make health and fitness your entire life and something you revolve your life around and something essentially that defines you instead of just being a part of who you are. And so I know what it's like to eat a few cookies, know the calorie count from those few cookies, and then go and look online, how many miles do I have to run to burn that off? And I know the damage it can do mentally, and it's just exhausting mentally, and it breaks you down. And so I've experienced it personally. I work with a lot of women who also have experienced that. And it's just about doing the opposite and saying, screw that. It's not the way to make good things happen.
Yeah, well, like we talk about that, not all the time, but like on a pretty regular basis, how like wrapping yourself up in the placing your happiness or your well-being, like, did I go work out today? Oh no, I'm guilty, or that I think should feel shameful, or that I should, or like not cutting yourself a break for eating the cookie, or for like just that extremist approach that just knocks you down, where like eventually you just give up everything because you couldn't bend slightly. It's a sad sight to see, but. So what got you into exercise in the first place? What's the background on Nia Shanks?
My mom, by far, she was an aerobics instructor in the 80s and became the first female trainer in our area in the 90s. And so I had the luxury of watching her train people at some gyms around town. And then she introduced me to strength training when I was about 14, when she worked at a Gold's Gym in town. And so she's the one that got me into it. And ever since then, it's just been something I've stuck with. I started strength training consistently when I was 16, when I could drive myself to and from the gym several times a week. But I haven't turned back since then.
Yeah. So was it love at first sight? Was it just like you got into it, like just a kind of obsession? Like, how did it grow on you?
Well, actually, I've always been really active growing up. And when I was younger, I played a lot of basketball and softball and a little bit of soccer and stuff. So I was always really active. But the thing that really drew me to strength training was the fact that it was a solo activity where I would either, succeed or fail. I use those words very loosely in this context. It was all up to me, which I really liked. And I found it really meditative as well, and I still do to this day. Like, I call strength training barbell therapy. It's very meditative to me. And that's really just what it became about, that and just seeing what I was capable of doing on my own. And that's the fun thing about strength training, as so many people know who get into it. As you get stronger, you see, you're like, didn't know I could do that. This is awesome. Yeah. What else can I go and do? And so that's what really sucked me into it.
Sure. Yeah. So, so what led to, like, how'd you come up with some of your outlooks on strength conditioning? I mean, like, cause you've got some pretty strong opinions that I happen to completely agree with, like looking through, like that it's not punishment, that, like your female's beginner's guide is so spot on. It's wonderful. Like that's one, like male, female, I don't care. They should go and read that like right away. I don't, it's just, on your website, I think it's called the Female Beginner's Guide.
Yeah, the Women's Beginner's Guide, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Like what led to some of these realizations? Because like there's a lot of people that just live their whole lives that go on this fitness journey and they never study or they never have these realizations. They never analyze anything. They just kind of do what they're always doing, What led to yours?
A lot of it came through education, through first my mom, since she was a trainer, and then through school where I got my degree in exercise physiology, and also just being a trainer and a coach. But a lot of it, what basically helped me craft kind of the methodology that I prefer to use today, was a lot of crappy experiences that I'd gone through. And you had touched on it, experiences with binge eating and disordered eating habits, and using exercise as nothing but a means to punish myself for having fat on my body or disliking parts of my body. And so escaping that mentality that exercise is punishment and food is something to be feared, and it's something that measures your moral superiority or what have you. It was getting out of that helped me realize that I need to make this something that makes me feel good about myself, and something I do because I enjoy it, and making the process itself something that's enjoyable, not chasing this thinner or more toned appearance and thinking that goal will make me happy and feel worthy. So it was really about breaking out of that and making it again something that was enjoyable. And then also, the more I wrote about it online, I have worked with tons of women who have a similar past, and through working with them, we've just kind of fine-tuned things over the years to find what works best as far as strength training. We're big, I'm really big on efficiency. As you can see on my website, I encourage people to focus mostly on the big compound lifts and focus on getting stronger and see what your body's capable of doing, and making sure that your workouts are something you look forward to doing. And kind of doing the same thing with nutrition, just simplifying it, making it something that you don't stress over constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And there's strangely a lot of parallels between what you're saying and like kind of my experience too. And I know, like, I'm obviously not female, but I think males kind of like experience the same thing of when they start getting into strength training and then they start obsessing about it, they get to a point where they go through the punishment, they go through the like if there's any fat on their body, that's all they can see, and they end up doing this like this pattern of it's never good enough. It's like I'm never gonna have the like, no matter what I do with my body or how strong it's never enough. And then you get to a point where you're like, this is silly. Like at some point, like it's just a terrible feeling all the time. It's just negative reinforcement, and that's not healthy either. So like, it's interesting hearing you talk about some of the stuff, some of the struggles that you've had with it. One of the things that I really wanted to ask you was, you touched on this in some of the stuff that you write, where women tend to focus on being less all the time, like less fat, less muscle, using less weight. And you kind of in society too, where it's like less weight, less and having less power, less high stuff like that. Like, what are some of your perspectives around it, just from a mindset standpoint of just being a female in an area that and starting to lift before it was kind of status quo acceptable for a female? What is your perspective on some of that?
Again, a lot of it personal experience and then working with clients on a daily basis. And 9 out of 10 women that would come to the gym and want to train with me, 9 out of 10 of them, everything was about fat loss. They wanted me to help them find tricks so they could eat less and help them burn more calories and whittle this and whittle that. And it was this perception that fat loss was just, that's why women would eat well. If you eat well, somebody says, oh, are you watching your weight? And if you work out, oh, are you trying to lose weight? It's like women, the only goal they can have is losing fat or fixing flaws. And I hated that. I absolutely hated that because it's not fun. You don't look forward to that. You don't go to the gym like, yes, I can't wait to burn the fat off my ass today. I'm so excited. You don't get amped up about that. And it was just really about realizing that it doesn't have to be that way. I know it's what's popular. I know it's how things are marketed towards women, whether it's diets or these gimmicky exercise tools or programs, but it doesn't have to be that way. And it's just really about saying, how can we make this fun? How can we make this something that makes you feel good about yourself? How can you use this as something that truly makes your entire life better? And that's what really got me and a lot of my clients to the place where we just kind of decided to say, screw less, and I'm going to go be more, and screw it, I'm just going to go get strong, and I'll let the changes happen to my body that are going to occur from focusing on these other more enjoyable focuses in the gym.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's my experience working with people, and my experience just training myself is that same thing. And I've had multiple people that they've lost tons of weight, or they've leaned out, and their body looks, they just look amazing at the end of their 1 year journey or whatever it's been that they really focused on getting ready for like a fitness competition or something like that. And they get there and they're like, I still feel like crap. I still feel awful. Like when I look in the mirror, I still think that I'm ugly. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you are a bombshell. You look great. You're thin. You're strong. Like, you can see the definition in your muscle. You look toned, or like tone, in quotes. And you still think that you look terrible. And so they never got to a point where it was a healthy relationship with exercise, and a healthy relationship with food, and a healthy relationship with their body. And it's really sad to see that. Like, all that work went into, I still think I'm ugly. It's like, oh my God, this was so sad, But
which is that develops, because a lot of people, when they start their health and fitness journeys, a lot of them say to themselves, I'll be happy once I lose 30 pounds. I'll look better once I lose 30 pounds. And so by default, you're saying, I'm not happy right now. I don't look good right now. I have to reach this to finally feel those things.
Right.
And again, that's not, you can't, and I wrote an article on this, as I like to say, you can't hate your way skinny. It just doesn't work. I know from personal experience and a lot of women that I've worked with. And, I'm not trying to make it sound like you can just say, oh, okay, fine, I love my body now, I feel worthy. It doesn't work that way. But if you can understand the mentality that you have and consciously work on transforming it into something that can actually help you, that's a first step. And that's why I tell people, you need to find a way to make the process its own reward. Find a way to make going to the gym today, you can go do a workout today, and no, it's not going to help you lose a lot of weight and build a lot of muscle with just that one workout. But that workout itself can and should be a reward, something that makes you feel good about yourself today. And then it's just about repeating those things frequently and enjoying that process. And then, as long as you're consistent, then you'll start to reap those physical changes. But they should just be side effects from the lifestyle itself, not the only reason you keep going. Because if that's all you lust over, and then once you finally get there, you're not going to appreciate it. You're going to say, well, 30 pounds I lost didn't do it. Let me focus on the next goal. And then you're just constantly chasing these goals that never fill you up, so to speak. Yeah,
it's like a dog chasing their tail. It just you don't end up going anywhere, and it's a sad cycle to watch if you can't, like, for me anyway, if I can't get somebody to notice that that's what's happening, it's a sad cycle to watch. But what about thoughts on the scale? Because like measurement does come up in all of this fitness stuff at some point, like if we want to make progress, right? So like what are your thoughts on scales, or what should people use it? You go ahead and go with what you think.
Yeah, to me, there's no clear-cut yes or no answer. There's a gray area, because it's the difference between whether or not somebody can be objective about what they see on the scale. For years when I was going through the binge eating and I was gaining weight because I was binging daily, just massive quantities, the weight on the scale, I could get on the scale in the morning, and if the weight didn't go down or if it went up, it ruined my entire day. I felt like crap all day.
No way.
No, it was terrible, but I was looking at that number subjectively. I allowed that number to define me. So women who look at it that way, at first I may tell them, let's just stay off the scale and let's focus on other things that show you're moving in the direction you want to go. But some women, and especially a lot of men, they're able to use that number as objective data. They can get on the scale today and go, oh man, I gained 5 pounds over the past couple months. Well, I just need to get back to working out and I'll buy some good stuff at the grocery store and start making better decisions. They can look at that objectively, free from emotion. And so that's the major difference. So for somebody who needs to lose weight, especially somebody who has a lot of weight that they need to lose for health reasons, the scale can be useful to show you, yes, things are moving along, but you really have to be able to adjust your perception of that number. And you have to look at it as one of many different markers you could use that is merely objective data that does not define you as a person in any shape, way, or form. And so to me, that's kind of the gray area. It really depends on the individual. Some people can use it well, and some people, like I still don't get on the scale, rarely ever. It's usually once a year at my doctor's appointment because I still battle occasionally kind of those numbers will kind of look, they still kind of like bring up bad memories in a way. I mean, I can get on the scale right now and it'd be fine, but if it was something I did every week, it still kind of can mess with your brain a little bit. So it's really just finding what will work for each individual and setting them up for success with whatever markers they need to use to make sure they're moving in the direction they want to go.
Yeah. No, I agree. Just some people just don't deal well with it. Like we make it completely optional at Grit when people come in for their initial assessment. Like if you get on that thing, you do not have to get on that thing. I'm not like, you don't want to do measurements. I don't care. Like even if they do have a considerable amount of weight to lose, it's like, well, then I guess we're just going with how your clothes fit. And we actually have a sign above it that says, oh, it doesn't say. It's something about how the scale only measures your relationship with gravity. It cannot measure your character, your courage, or your intelligence, any of that kind of stuff. Like it can't. It's just your relationship with gravity. If you go to the moon, you're going to weigh a little less. That's all it is. It doesn't say anything else. So we like to educate people on that. What's that?
And that's the thing too, is that the scale does not reveal the entire story. And I've had it happen more times than I can count. I still remember early on in my training career, I had a woman that was working with me and she had a goal weight in mind. And I convinced her to forget about the goal weight and let's just train well and eat well and just see what happens. And so months into training, she is kicking ass and she feels strong and her clothes are fitting great. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing muscle definition in my shoulders. Everything is awesome. Well, she comes back the next training session and she just looks so deflated. And I'm thinking, what happened? What's going on? She stepped on the scale. And after, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months of training at that point, and she had only lost 5 pounds. And she was just upset. She's like, I thought I would have lost so much more than that. But she wasn't registering all the things she had been saying up to that point. And, once I told her that you built a lot of muscle, but you also lost fat, that's why you only see a 5-pound difference. That number just really has a way of playing with people's minds. And so it's really about helping educate them as you are doing, saying, just gravity. It's not telling you everything else that's going on, especially, and I'm sure you experience this too, especially as an individual man or woman starts strength training and building muscle, if this isn't something they've done before. Because a lot of women, the scale weight won't change much at all, but they have drastically changed their body composition. And so they look noticeably different regardless of only, a few pounds lost or even gained. So like you said, that's why it should be optional for some people, because it doesn't tell you everything that's going on.
Yeah. No, I've seen the story that you just laid out. I've seen that many times. And we've even seen it. There's one person I can think of in particular that she got so freaked out. She was just, finally everything was kind of like, her demeanor was kind of changing, and she was terrified. This is the only person I was thinking of the whole time you're telling the story. But for about a week, you could just tell her demeanor was just different. Before that, she was just like really vibrant in the gym. She was loving it. And finally, I was like, "What's up? What's going on?" And she goes, "I'm terrified that I've gained all my weight back," because she had worked really hard to lose a bunch of weight, and she looked great, but she didn't have any muscle when she first came in to start working out. She had lost all her weight beforehand, and then started lifting, and I was like, all right, well, let's do it. She crept back up to the weight that she started at when she started her fat loss journey. So we did a pinch test, just a real quick pinch test, and according to the pinch test, like obviously there's some human error that can go into this, but she had gained 21 pounds, but 20 of it was muscle. And only 1 pound of it was fat. She's a hardcore endomorph, so that's probably helped her out a little bit. But she was like, "Oh, okay, I'm good with that."
Yeah, it's about
back to where she was before. Just like, bam, vibrance back. She was like, "All right, let's do this. Let's go lift." She was really proud of herself. It was awesome.
Yeah, sometimes those numbers have a way of messing with people. And I even remember back at U of L in one of our lab classes, we did the hydrostatic weighing for body fat, and a competitive swimmer at U of L, she volunteered to be one of the people to do it. She was excited and went in there and did it and came back out. Well, when it had calculated that her body fat was, I think, maybe 20%, she just froze, panicked. That number, her being told she's 20% body fat, freaked her out. And I was like, this woman got in that tank, confident, happy, a successful athlete. She
probably looked great. At 20%, she probably looked great.
She did. But knowing that's the thing about these damn numbers, is sometimes they can really throw you for a loop, because just seeing the look on her face when she was told 20% body fat, she just thought it was lower than that. But that's again the problems with these numbers, is they don't match up to how we feel a lot of times. And that's why I tell people, how you feel is much more important than the stupid number. It can take some time to detach yourself from it.
Yeah. I look at calories in a fairly similar way. It's like if you rested your hat completely on calories, you could sit around and eat a ton of just junk, garbage food for you, right? And not be very healthy. But but calories are still important at the same time. So where do you draw your lines? This measurement is obviously a good thing, but it can mess with you hardcore. Yeah. What do you think that some of like the posing competition ads that you see on TV, on supplement bottles and stuff, like kind of the idea that they're creating an expectation for people, and people think that should be like, that's the pillar of health, like these people that are going in and maybe they hold that water depleted, like photoshopped position out for like, the 2-hour photo shoot, and then they go have a pizza and it's all gone. Thoughts on that?
That's a very loaded question.
I know.
It's interesting from the perspective simply that, again, it kind of comes back to, and this affects men just as much as women, just in a different way, that we come to believe that that's what defines fitness, is an image, that to be fit means you look a certain way. And it's hard not to give in to that to some extent, simply because of what you just said, all the things that are marketed towards us, where a lot of men think they have to be these jacked, super lean dudes, and women think they have to have the perfect curves and be lean in all the right places. It's hard to kind of disregard that stuff and just ask yourself, what is it that would actually make me feel good? What is it I want to accomplish? Because I've known a lot of women who got into health and fitness and enjoyed it, but then they bought into that message that to be fit means to look like a figure athlete. And so what did they do? They started competing in figure competitions. And most women that I personally know who have gone that route end up with some pretty disordered eating habits and body image issues, simply because those women they get incredibly, incredibly, incredibly lean. That is what that sport demands. But being a woman, being that lean is very difficult to maintain for long periods of time without messing up your hormones and all this stuff. And so it can be a very slippery slope for some women. And I'm not saying all of them have that kind of relationship with their bodies or food or anything. There's plenty of people who compete in bodybuilding and figure who love the sport. They love the challenge of it. I'm not speaking about them, just the people that I know personally who have had very bad experiences. It kind of comes from thinking that there's only one way to be fit, so to speak, and instead of asking themselves, well, what would actually make me happy? And it's why a lot of women realize that they don't have to be super ripped to actually love their bodies and to feel good, that they realize, wow, I don't need to be super lean to actually like how I look and to like how I feel, because maintaining this body is so much easier than trying to maintain an incredibly lean physique. So
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, obviously, if you have a ton of weight to lose, moving more towards that end of the spectrum is a good thing. But obviously, like, there's a point where it's like it's not maintainable on a health level to do some of that stuff. And on some level, it's like just what you said. Like, where do we start tapping into where we're kind of getting to, like, I don't want to call it sick, but like our head is just a little bit warped around something that it's not making us feel very good, you know?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. What about tricks? Do they exist? I know you mentioned this a little while ago that everybody's looking for the trick. Do they exist?
I'm not a big fan of like tricks. I don't like tricks and hacks and all that stuff because it's misleading, but it sells and it gets attention because that's usually, it gets attention because we all want to believe that there's some secret to reaching all of your elusive goals and all of that sort of thing. But no, I mean, if I would say anything, it's actually just focusing on the fewest things you have to do, because more often than not, I see people searching for this perfect program and this perfect diet, and everything gets super complicated. And I'm over here telling them, you just need to focus on doing these few things well and doing them consistently. And hot damn, you will be amazed at the results you achieve when you do this. And then thankfully, some of them are clients and they do what I say, and then they go, oh my gosh, it's easier than I thought. So I wouldn't call that a trick so much as kind of just a sane and simple approach mixed with some perseverance. But yeah, as far as the hacks and all that stuff, I've yet to find one that's not complete crap. Although I did write about one recently on my website.
What was it?
The one simple hack to stop screwing yourself over, I think I called it, which is the law of holes. Have you heard that? The law of holes?
What is it? I don't know if I have.
If you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of something that a lot of us tend to do. Like if we don't make good food decisions today, we'll use that as an excuse to make poor food decisions for several days, and then start over Monday type thing. But instead, just stop digging, start over type thing. So I did say hack there, but I meant it more kind of in joking.
Hacks and tricks and stuff like that, like whatever, that's cool with me. But the idea that there really is a hack, or there really is a trick, or there really is a shortcut. So for me, I think it's a little silly. You want to go out and get like butt implants instead of actually doing your glute bridges and deadlifts. Yeah. Like, I guess, sure, But yeah, I think like anything worthwhile tends to carry a certain amount of, just like what you said, like a relentless perseverance, like hard work. You just kind of keep pushing towards it. So I tend to shy away from using the word, but yeah, anytime I see that, or like this is the last program that you'll ever need.
I love it.
Okay. But so with your training, what you do, are you trying to correct what's wrong with the person? Or are you trying to optimize what they already have?
That's an interesting way to put it. I really just encourage women, especially if they've never done it before, to just take the time to focus on what their body can do, find out what they're naturally good at, and to become better at those things. Because every individual, based on, as you know this, your coach, limb length and all that stuff, everybody's naturally inclined to do better at certain lifts than others. And it's fun to help them find those lifts that they're naturally good at and help them become great at it. and just really taking the time to be proud of what their bodies are capable of doing and to let their uniqueness be expressed in those workouts. Because so many women, again, we come from a background focusing on fat loss and trying to look better instead of saying, well, what is my body naturally going to excel at? And then taking the time to discover those things. So that's more the route I prefer to go, simply because it's fun. But,
no kidding. Yeah, instead of focusing on your flaws all the time, go ahead and just find some enjoyment in what you're doing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Well, we're right at that 30-minute mark. Is there any other like words of wisdom, knowledge bombs, mindset torpedoes that you want to drop before we jet out?
Yeah, the one thing I would say that I've seen more and more lately, and that I've realized is critical for myself, is if there ever was, here we go with those words, secrets. I know I've used a ton of air quotes this interview, forgive me, but the only secret I would say that I've seen for people who achieve the results they want and also maintain them is the ability to adapt to situations, meaning you will get injured, hopefully not from your workout, but maybe from something else. Your world will get chaotic and your gym time will be cut down. Something will always interfere with your plans or your training routine. And your ability to adapt is what will determine whether or not you are successful. Because the people who, and I have women in my coaching group, some of them had shoulder surgery from old injuries, and they are coming back and already bench pressing and doing push-ups. And when they were healing, they said, well, I can't do anything with my upper body, but I'm going to do leg presses and leg extensions. They chose to focus on the things they could do. And another woman, she got hit by a car a few years ago, shattered part of her leg, and she was an avid runner, and her doctor told her she'll never be able to run again. And that really discouraged her, but she decided to get into strength training because that's something she could do, and she's grown to love it. And now she's really strong and loves how she feels. So that is the secret. Great. You're going to, crap's going to happen to you, and you have to be committed to finding a way to adapt to that situation, period.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like to use the, even if you bust your ankle, you still have one good leg, a core, and two arms. There's always something.
Exactly.
There's always around. Even if we just work completely around the injury, we can still get something in. But,
exactly.
And then where can all the people who watch this, where can they find you? Where can they follow you?
Oh, sorry, NiaShanks.com. Everything's right there.
Are you on any other social what is it? What's your Facebook page? And are you on Instagram, Twitter? I don't know. Whichever.
Yeah, I prefer Twitter and Instagram. It's just at Nia Shanks, those. So, cool. And I would like to say, if it's okay, that my book "Live Like a Girl" will be out December 5th, Tuesday, December 5th. Super excited.
Yeah, that was my next question. Actually, I wanted to make sure. And so I'm gonna take a wild guess that you're gonna, if they go sign up for your newsletter right now, that they're gonna get an update for when your book drops, right?
Definitely. And the really cool thing is, for the first 2 days, the Kindle version, it's gonna be just 99 cents. So
awesome.
Ready to get in people's hands.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna have to go pick that up then. That'll be cool. I'm really excited. It's neat. I'm in the process of writing a book right now. All of it got written, and now I sent it to the editor, and they're like, "You got some major weight to lose." And I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You got to get this down to 200 pages." I was like, "Oh my god!" And it's at 300. I'm like, "How am I supposed to do that?" So writing a book, huge endeavor. But anyway, thanks for being here. I really appreciate this. This is a super enjoyment to talk with you. It's awesome. You're great.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right. Well, maybe we'll be able to have you back on the show again soon. But whoa, got my pen. All right. Thanks. See you, Nia.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, they won't let us off. Anyway.
So let's start. Now it won't stop.